A freak storm unleashes species of bloodthirsty creatures on a small town where a small band of citizens hole up in a supermarket and fight for their lives. I couldn't read my handwriting. So anyway, it's based on a Stephen King novella. Just saying it. It's based on something Stephen King wrote. I didn't want to say that too loud because it upset you, but
well,
yeah.
This is based on a Twilight Zone story too. So
well, he wrote this book. I guess he was inspired by Half-Life video game. So he wrote this little story about the mist, and apparently it was a lot more dramatic and bloody than this one was, than the movie ended up being, the adaptation. Yeah. But the ending stayed the same. I don't want to ruin the ending. Well, maybe I can. I don't care.
It's been around for a while, my friend.
Yeah. Well, when the director went out to like sign the contracts, he basically had it put in the contract that the ending has to stay the same. We can't change it. Yeah. So they actually agreed to it.
Well, it's because the ending is so strong. On the mess. The ending. I mean, there's something about this film that it is such a perfect example of what I've always said about the monster. The less you see the monster, the more effective it is.
I had that written down. Ask Mick what he thought. Does it show too much of the monsters?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I think it does. All. I think a little bit. Like okay, the scene in the garage or in the dock,
the
loading dock.
Right, the loading dock.
I thought they showed too much of the tentacles. Could have been a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I mean I think that this is a perfect example where throwing blood up against the glass is the monster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean that works for you entirely.
Or you see the aftermath, like you see the half a body coming out of the
half a body, all the rest of that. This, but at the same time, it does have that I want to say there's a Twilight Zone story I remember the aliens are saying at the end, all we have to do is mess with the radios and close the town off and they'll kill each other, right? And that's basically the tension in the film has more to do with the people going after themselves than it does with the monsters that are outside. Because basically the fact that we can see a tentacle here and a tentacle there is enough to make everybody turn on ech other, right?
See, I turn into a bobblehead when I really agree with you.
Right. What the hell was that? but that the thing is with all of that, the height of that is how they end the film, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I think it was amazing to see. So this is one thing I've noticed. Like recent horror movies are all like Saw, and just movies like horror porn, like we talk about a lot.
Right.
It's all gore and
it's all gore.
There's no human story, which I like about sci-fi, which is why I like sci-fi so much.
Exactly.
This has a human story. It has characters that I like. I'm rooting for half of them, and then I like the fact that they start fighting with each other when they're supposed to be overcoming what's attacking them. Right. They end up fighting amongst each other, and they pick sides almost like factions.
And that humanity turns on them at the end is what's most interesting.
That decision at the end was brutal. That
decision at the end is just so brutal, and you didn't need to see it, right? You just see him.
You just see the flashes.
Boom, boom, right. Boom. You just see the flashes, and that's it. It is a little bit of perfection all the way along.
And the lady that nobody stopped, that lady who's like, I had to go get back to my children. The lady from Walking Dead, Melissa McBride.
Right.
Why didn't they stop her? I mean, it's like they just look at her like, well, she's. Well, see you later.
Yeah. See ya. Sayonara. And the thing is there's so many things in here that there are so many things that are stolen from other films and ideas and concepts and stuff.
Well, it's like you say, there's the same story told many times.
Yeah, many times. I mean,
this is Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, this is Night of the Living. absolutely Night of the Living Dead. I mean, you know, when you get down to the end of it, and you're wondering about the last couple of people that are killed in there, the last. I mean,
yeah, you're down to like what, 5 people at the end, I guess.
Right, exactly. And it's just perfect. It is just absolutely perfect.
And it has the perfect tone. It has that claustrophobic feeling, and it mixes hope and despair at the same time, which I always like that when there's hope that it's gonna turn out okay, but then at the same time it's like it's going so badly that it's not gonna end well.
But the element that's the scariest in it is the timing at the end.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The way the timing.
Well, the third act of the film is.
The third act of the film is just absolutely
perfect.
Terrifying. And,
yeah.
It's.
The fog starts lifting.
I actually don't even want to tell how the ending goes for this film because I want everybody to go out and see The Mist.
Well, I do like the fact that as soon as this happens at the end, the mist starts lifting and you start seeing the creatures, which I think is the perfect time to show something if you're going to show it.
Right, exactly.
But not show them like while the action's happening.
And they're being attacked, and
By the way, I really like that shot where the dock door opens and you see the mist, and it's like still in the same form. It doesn't come in. It just kind of stays there.
It just stays there. I love that. Yeah, I love that. Makes you wonder. I mean, that's it. When was this made?
This was made in
95, maybe.
2007.
2007. Okay.
Yeah.
2007. So they could have done. It makes you wonder how much of it was done, because I know that they had a lot of trouble with fog at that point, optically. You know.
Well, I was like, what would hold its shape like that for so long? Like,
I mean, yeah, that's a really good question. You know, it's I don't know whether they did a lot of that kind of thing mechanically, because smoke has never been something that the control is very easy with. You know,
I think they had a bunch of PAs going against the door. Dry ice.
Yeah, good dry ice. And I know that you can't hold up a piece of plastic because the plastic has too many kicks of light on it, and it just
I thought about that too. I was like, well, did they use cellophane or something? But I'm like, that's too shiny. And
we did used to use scrims, and a scrim will kind of work because it comes in a little bit through the scrim, you know, but it doesn't work for long, and it's super finicky. Fog will drive you nuts if you're trying to control it.
So apparently the director wanted to do this in black and white, which I think is interesting. So they actually released a Blu-ray with a black and white version on it.
Did they? Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, the earthquake scene where they all jump in surprise. Yeah. Apparently the actors didn't know they were going to use this loud sound on large speakers.
Right.
Of an earthquake. So that's what initially scared them, which I thought was hilarious. Oh, and they used the Wilhelm scream.
The what?
I always like hearing about movies that use the Wilhelm scream, or if you're German, the Wilhelm scream.
The recording of the scream, right?
Yeah, they used it when Ambrose Cornell, died? Ambrose Cornell, I think it was. He's the guy with the mustache.
Oh, right.
He was from Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
I don't know how I know that. I like Gunsmoke a lot, so. But anyway. No, but he's the one that sided with the religious lady, and he ended up dying, and they used that scream for his death.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
But anyway, that's interesting to me because it's like a scream that people have used since the early 50s.
Yeah.
It's like just a sound effect that was carried on.
You know, it's really funny. I remember back in the day, audience tracks used to be done by a machine.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I think you told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
And you met the guy who made him? Or
I met the guy who made him, but then the machine wound up coming out of a locker, a storage unit in Hollywood, right? That they had stored the machine, and it came up on Antiques Roadshow of all places. And wow. You got to see a pic. And basically, what it was is it was a machine that mixed it had all these tapes that were running at once, and all of them were different audience tapes, right? That had been taken off of audiences back in the 40s, and then the machine mixed them in different ways, and they had all these knobs and levers and everything. It was just so cool looking.
Wow.
You ought to look it up. Put the applause machine, Antiques Roadshow, applause machine, and you can take a look at the episode where they go into it.
Oh, cool.
And it is so cool, because I just remember for years and years and years, hearing that audience. I mean, all the shows in the 70s, and this guy, the guy that did it, I think it was Glenn Sound, right?
Okay.
So some guy that worked for him went off and started his own thing, and he did it from the late 40s all the way up until the early 80s. Every show that you heard was all the live. The audience was always done with this one machine, and the guy wouldn't tell anybody how he did it. he had this office, and said, and they come in, and he'd just run the sound through his machine, and give you an audience.
I think he shrunk people and put them in the machine.
Well, yeah, but that's
it was
another
some kind
movie.
Of witchcraft.
That's another movie.
It's witchcraft.
Yeah, it's I just always have loved that.
Well, that was before CD.
Yeah.
So I had actually, my dad had a couple of those old vinyls from the 50s that had sound effects on both sides.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
And so when I was a little kid, I used to dream about being on the radio, and I was using sound effects, and I was playing those. But then when I was actually in the radio in the 90s, I actually used these CDs that were from it was recordings from the 50s and 60s sound effects.
Right.
And I was using these really old sound effects for my production and stuff that I was doing. I was doing commercials and stuff like that. But it was just, it's sad. Some of the stuff was really bad, really old sounding sound of trains and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the sound. Yeah, I ran into a sound effects guy that when I was at a con recently, and why can't I think of his name? But he was one of the guys that started in the 80s and the 70s, 80s, and 90s that started the layering of sound.
Oh yeah. So sound design, basically.
Basically that was as sound design started to become more and more of an art from the 60s and 70s and 80s on up. And he was one of the ones that started, mixing that kind of stuff.
Well, that's cool.
He was a blast. We were at this. We were in Arkansas, in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and there was this really. It has this huge hospital that's a federal this enormous. It looks like a mental institution from the 20s, and it's completely closed off. And we went over there with him, and we're looking up the facade, and it's got this great Gothic look. Looks like every crazy sanitarium you've ever seen in your life. And so he kind of jumps over this little fence, which it was like these gates on this road, and it wasn't really a gate. It was just like that bar that goes across, and then they lock the bar together, and it says federal property, do not trespass, right? And so he goes over it in order to take a picture. He walks 20 feet in, and these two clowns come up in park ranger outfits, carrying guns and everything, and these old boys. One of them gets out, says, "Boy, I'm telling you, you cannot be on federal property." And they it was so funny because this guy sounded like every who's the rooster in Foghorn Leghorn?
Foghorn Leghorn.
He sounded exactly like Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh,
and
wow.
And so our car is parked down the street, and he all of a sudden he comes over the fence. He's going, "Boys, we got to get out of here." so we started to follow him, and then this guy was enormous, and he was like, "You people better stop, and I'm going to need to see some ID." No, and it was like we weren't stopping.
He was gonna throw his flashlight at you.
We went down and we got in the car, and I'm not kidding. I rolled the window down to the car as we were leaving, and I'm writing down your license number. I'm telling you that that this is a federal crime that you are doing, and he is writing down. I'm writing it down, and I couldn't stop myself. I stuck my head out the window and I said, "Anybody ever told you sound exactly like Foghorn Leghorn?" And we start to drive away. He goes, "Boy, you do not want to mess with a federal officer."
I'm a chicken hawk.
Man, I'm telling you, it was. There were tears streaming down everybody's face in the car as we drove away. But what was great is I thought to myself, can you imagine what it's like to be on the other side of because it's a park ranger service, right? So can you imagine what it's like to get a phone call from this guy, right? in the offices? I mean, it's got to be like, oh, hold on, Bob.
I see.
Bob, we need to put you on. Bob, hold on a minute. And put them on speaker so that everybody can gather around and go, "Oh yeah, it's Bob. Bob, we have a situation down here."
Or you save a voicemail.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Play it for everybody.
Right? It's got every time he calls in, everybody's just gotta go, "Oh God."
Well, I used to work when I was in advertising. I had this guy that I used to work with. He was a siding guy. He did siding on buildings and pergolas and sunrooms and stuff.
Right.
And he sounded exactly like the guy that on the Soggies. It's the
Soggy
cereal.
Mountain Boys.
No, the cereal. Oh God, Captain Crunch.
Oh, Captain Crunch.
And he was like, "Hey, this is Jim." And the first time he came in to meet with me, I was with my manager, and I looked at her, and she was like, trying not to laugh. so I started laughing, and he's like, "What's so funny, son?" And I was like, "I'm just having a good day."
I have to tell you.
But I used to save his voicemails, and I'd play it for everybody.
through the whole rest of the con, because this was the day before we actually, before the con started. Everybody turned. "Boy, I'm telling you, boy."
Wow. So they didn't come after you guys.
You do not want to mess with a federal officer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you made that guy's day. You gave him something to do. You made him feel important.
I just saw it as a win-win situation. Think of all the guys in the office that got to hear him call in. Oh my
right.
God.
And he felt important because he was reporting something, and
yeah.
See, works out. So what were we talking about?
No, I have no idea. Maybe we should move on.
Oh, we were talking about The Mist. Okay, so we didn't rate it.
We didn't rate it. I'm sorry. You know what? I still love The Mist. I mean, I think.
I think the best thing about this movie is it's logical.
4.2.
I didn't think anybody made really stupid decisions except for the lady who went home early. Because I gotta get my kid. I left her at home alone with the little baby. But anyway, I think it's interesting because it's logical right through the end. Even that decision at the end, that was heartbreaking.
You just can't.
And the final girl was destroyed. But anyway, I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I thought it was great. And actually, if you want to do some extra homework, look up connections between The Mist and Walking Dead. There's a ton of connections, which I was totally shocked by. But anyway, I won't get into them. But I would give this. You gave us what, a 4? I would give it a 4.5.
I said 4.2. So yeah,
oh, okay.
No, I love this film. I don't think anybody made any like you said. I don't think anybody made any bad decisions. It harkens back.
It was realistic.
And it does harken back to
realistic
to an older style of
totally
of storytelling.
And the 50s, like the military's doing something, they screwed up, and everybody's
and seriously, the best of that.
It was
Tell
subtle
me,
enough.
Does it not totally reek of like Rod Serling's writing?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's good stuff. Good stuff.